Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to Shop Talk. For almost 4 decades, the blue screen of death, better known as a BSOD, has been the iconic signal that your computer has just had a really bad day. And now, in a move that might seem cosmetic at first, but actually marks a shift in Microsoft's engineering philosophy, the blue screen of death is being retired. Not reworked, not redesigned or recolored, but retired. As of Windows 11 version 24H2, the classic blue crash screen is officially going black. The new black screen of death, still a BSOD if you're a fan of that acronym, features a more minimalist approach. Gone is the cartoonish, sad face, gone is the clutter of QR codes, and in its place is a sleeker, high-contrast message that gets straight to the point. Something broke, and Windows needs to reboot. It's a quiet funeral for a loud and big problem. But the changing color isn't just a new coat of paint. It's symbolic of something bigger that's happening under the hood. The blue screen was never supposed to be a feature. It was a debugging mechanism, a last-ditch cry for help from the kernel when it encountered an unrecoverable error. But due to the sheer scale of Windows development, the BSOD became one of the most recognized user interfaces on the planet. And that wasn't the plan. That was the fallout. So why get rid of it now? Well, it's all part of something called the Windows Resiliency Initiative. And that name isn't just marketing fluff. It's a serious architectural push to make Windows fundamentally harder to break and faster to fix it when it does. To understand why this is happening now, you've got to rewind the tape a bit to July 2024. That's when the Crowdstrike Falcon Sensor update shipped a single malformed DLL to millions of Windows endpoints. That one file crash looped a core system process, LSASS, which is responsible for enforcing security policies and user authentication. On most systems, when LSASS fails, Windows assumes something deeply wrong has occurred and initiates a system shutdown within 60 seconds. And the result? Well, blue screens across enterprises, airports, banks, government offices, basically anything that had a CrowdStrike agent installed and was running Windows. Estimates put the total number of affected machines somewhere north of 8 million. It was, quite simply, one of the worst global IT outages ever caused by a single software update. And the irony is, it wasn't even Microsoft's bug, but that didn't matter. When people's machines crash with a big blue screen, they don't blame CrowdStrike, they blame Windows. Microsoft knew it couldn't afford a repeat. And so enter the Windows Resiliency Initiative. This isn't a simple patch or a new feature. It's a holistic rethinking of how Windows handles failure, from the kernel all the way up to third-party integration. At its core are 4 pillars: isolation, diagnostics, recovery, and prevention. Isolation means reducing how much third-party software can actually access kernel mode operations. Microsoft is pushing security vendors to move from traditional kernel mode drivers to user mode services. Historically, antivirus software ran with system-level privileges so it could inspect memory, intercept I/O calls, and look for bad behavior. That was great for security, but it was also a great way to take the whole OS down if the AV software itself had a bug, which, as we saw, it did in this case. Diagnostics refers to improved crash reporting and telemetry, but not the bad kind. When a crash does occur, the new black screen provides a streamlined report that's easier for IT to parse, and behind the scenes, it feeds directly into Microsoft's automated incident analysis pipeline in Azure. Less clutter on the screen means more signal in the logs. Recovery brings us to one of the more interesting features: Quick Machine Recovery, or QMR. This is like System Restore on steroids. If Windows detects a crash loop at startup, QMR enters a smart recovery mode that reaches out to Windows Update, downloads targeted patches or rollback data, and attempts to fix the system automatically. And crucially, this doesn't require a visit from a technician or even input from the user. The entire point is that recovery happens fast, ideally within seconds, so the crash isn't the end of your workday. Microsoft is aiming for a recovery time of under 2 seconds for the vast majority of cases. We'll see how that holds up in the real world, but the ambition is there. And then there's prevention, the final piece. Under the Microsoft Virus Initiative, or MVI 3.0 as they're calling it, security vendors are being required to follow new rules for rolling out updates. No more spray and pray global pushes. They have to adopt staged deployment rings, allow for safe rollbacks, and prove that they've tested updates against the latest Windows Insider builds. In effect, Microsoft is treating third-party drivers the same way it treats its own kernel code. The standard is now essentially, don't ship what you haven't tested like we would test it. So what does all this have to do with the black screen? Well, plenty. The black screen is cleaner and easier to read on OLED panels where blue can cause uneven wear. And it visually separates modern Windows crashes from the legacy baggage of the past. Blue meant a reboot you weren't expecting, but black is the new controlled descent. It says, yes, something went wrong, but it's contained, it's being handled, and it'll be back to work in a moment. It's not that crashes are gone. They never will be, but how Windows handles them is evolving. We're moving from the era of failure as disaster to failure as an event, something that happens, gets logged, and gets fixed. If the blue screen was the face of old Windows, powerful sure, but fragile and prone to catastrophe, then the black screen is the face of what Microsoft hopes is a more modern, resilient operating system. A platform that understands the real world is messy, third-party code will sometimes fail, and the best way to earn trust is to pretend that, or not to pretend that mistakes don't happen, but to recover from them instantly when they do happen. And that, in my book, is a change worth painting black. All right, with that, I'm joined by my co-host Glenn, as always, who's got a list of questions from user feedback and comments in the episode comments and questions. So make sure when you're watching one of the episodes, if you do have comments, make sure you leave it with a question mark so Glenn spots it. How you doing, Glenn?
I'm doing well, Dave. It's been a couple weeks since...
you got the mesmerizer on the smoke effect behind you there. It looks pretty cool.
I kind of fond of that one.
I like that one myself. Mesmerizers are on eBay, by the way. So if you look for ESP32 Mesmerizer on eBay, you will find those as a kit that you can just plug together and turn it on, and it will do about 50 cool effects, and that's one of them. So what do we got for user questions?
We took a little bit of a different approach again, trying some AI stuff. So ran them through a sort, and it applied an interest score. So we're going to read through them from most interesting to least interesting, and we'll see how that flies. So I think it'll be good. But there's lots of stuff. You had a couple of episodes on Dave's Garage, and then the last Shop Talk we did about the passkeys got a lot of questions and stuff happening. So let's fire off here with the one from Stéphane Gilbert, probably. Says it would be interesting to explain why Windows uses the path delimiter, the / as a command line switch instead of the hyphen. Do you know what the history is behind that?
No, my assumption and my understanding, and I should really talk to Mark Z about this and maybe interview him for the channel at some point, because he is the guy that wrote MS-DOS 2, essentially. And that's when they introduced folders. And so they had to come up with a path delimiter. And because CPM didn't, I don't know if it had a path delimiter because they were just like I don't know if CPM ever had folders. I guess I'm showing my ignorance there because I don't use CPM a lot for current use. But the problem was it used / for command line switches or for command options. And so MS-DOS 1 also adopted that. So some of the commands like link or fdisk or whatever shipped in MS-DOS 1 that had command line switches also used /. And so to be distinct from those, they went to the / for paths. Why they have to be different is a question I've got myself. Like, what's the problem if you've got path delimiters and switch delimiters being the same character? Maybe it's harder to parse, I guess, but that's the reason, and I'm not sure exactly why they went that way, but that's my understanding.
But we'll get in touch with, like I have anything, you'll get in touch with Mark and you'll put him on camera and drill him with that question.
He keeps saying he's going to come do an interview. He just doesn't live here. I think he's in Arizona now, so.
Yeah. He only comes to the Seattle area a couple times a year, and he probably has a lot of stuff to do. Second one here from Andy Roth. So one of the annoying things he says about Windows is that the user folder exists on the C drive and can't be moved, and a lot of rude programs pollute your user folder with stuff that he doesn't want on his main SSD. He says, so can you use a junction point to redirect your user folder to another physical drive other than C?
Yeah, so you could create a D drive, create a folder on there, and use a junction point on NTFS from where your user folder is to where you really want it. And that will fool 99% of software into just working. Programs that are too clever for their own good and try to punch through junction points, and that might have a problem, but it should work for almost everything. So,
okay, there you go. Next one here, Quaces, foiled again. Dave, you sort of gave a pitch for passkeys, but he's got two problems. He models credential recovery in terms of two worst case scenarios. So the first one, he says there's a fire in his house. He runs outside in a panic and doesn't bring his phone with him. So he's got nothing. Everything's gone. In the second one, he says you're traveling far from home. No one else lives or has access to the house. And his phone, the only device he had with him, is stolen. So he's kind of got nothing. In those two situations, says now he needs to access his contacts, email, bank accounts. He's got no devices, no USB keys. What do I set up ahead of time to be sure I'll be able to restore access to my accounts and information if they are protected by these passkeys?
Well, the main thing I do is, because I'm in the Apple ecosystem for my phone, they're backed up to my iCloud keychain. So I could destroy my phone, run down to T-Mobile, get a brand new phone, turn it on, sync from the cloud, and I would have all my passkeys back. Now, I'm not sure what happens to the biometric data and stuff, because if you don't back up 2FA before you get a new phone, you can lose your 2FA. It doesn't transfer when you get a new phone. So that part is not in the cloud. It must be stored in the secure enclave on the device. So I haven't tested this path yet, but my understanding is that because I back everything up to the cloud, I should be able to restore them. Whether they're still good and useful, I've never tried, but that's my understanding. That's going to be my disclaimer for the day, I guess. That's my understanding.
Yeah. Andrew Pullen from the Passkeys says, so you're retired, right? Says, most people who retired work in the garden or go traveling or whatever, but you have your collection of computers, pets, PDP-11s, VAXs and whatnot. Well, you don't have the VAX yet, but like tomorrow.
I'm simulating having the VAX.
Simulated VAX enjoyment. So apart from simply getting all this old tech working, what do you actually do with it all? And when you say you have your projects, we all know about a couple of small YouTube channels. Small. Well, you got one big one, and then there's this one, and your passion for Tempest. But it leads them on to asking, what the other projects do you do? And this guy's from Australia, so cheers from Australia. And he also found out he was on the spectrum a couple of years ago at the age 58. Loved your book. So, what are these other projects you do, Dave, outside of this computer shenanigans?
Well, I do a lot of software stuff for LEDs, the audio visualizers, the mesmerizer code, stuff like that. So that stuff doesn't generally make episodes, although I will do a mesmerizer episode at some point. And there was a PCB design went with that. So that took me a long time because I'd never designed a surface mount PCB before. I do a lot of things like that. And of course, all the PDP projects take time. And the nice stuff about vintage computers is that if you have enough of them, they break at a rate that once you have enough, there's always something broken. So you always have something to work on. You can just walk around, turn everything on, and one smoke will come out of one of them. And now you got something to do for the day.
Or you've got the machine on your desk and you get it all working, and then you put it in the cage, in the rack, and now it stops working. Right. You start pulling curds out, then it works again, and then something else fails. So yeah,
that's the beauty of the old hardware. Oh, and I wrote a couple of books along the way in the last 2-3 years too. So that keeps me fairly busy, all combined.
Yeah, I guess we got the mesmerizer episode, and we also have that helical lamp in the background too that is waiting for next time I visit. We got to somehow put an episode together on that with some like crazy B shots or something.
Hey, I got a sneak peek of something. You want to see it? I'm really proud of it. So you'll have to stand back. No.
Okay.
Ready? Oh, wait. There it is. My 1,000,000 subscriber plaque. And now I'll put my giant head in front of it again, and you'll never see it.
That's right. You got the 1,000,000 plaque. Excellent. And we all know it's there right behind your head. Just here for the lulz. Asking about the drive letters. Okay, so how about mounting a folder via remote desktop? He says, for example, we air gap our local workstations and connect through a jump box via VPN. We transfer files via the remote desktop protocol by allowing a folder on our workstation drive to be shared. So that it breaks quite a bit, locking up with the jump box and having to reestablish the entire session to the host. And we're left with a long volume name instead of the short name.
I'm not entirely sure what the question is there, but
yeah, that's mounting a folder via remote desktop.
So when he connects via remote desktop, you can bring a folder from your local computer and have it mounted as a folder in the session that you're connecting to. I think that's what he's talking about, the scenario. And it sounds like the problem is the path to that mounted folder is complex and hard to use. So you could, like in C:root, make a directory called banana and link banana with a soft link all the way to wherever that actual folder is, or a junction point, or whatever you want to use as the situation dictates. So that's what I would do, is in the root, create a link to where this complex path that's hard to manage all the way down.
The important part is that file you're creating, the root, has to be named banana.
Yes, it's a secret word. Don't name it Oklahoma. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, and don't tell anyone else, because then it's ruined. Yeah.
It's my activation word.
Digilid or digilide. Why have we no assign command like the Amiga? Ooh, that'll get your attention. A way of mounting a folder is a virtual drive. In fact, why didn't Microsoft not purchase the entire Commodore estate? Oh, which reminds me, someone else just did.
Yeah, Perifractic bought the remnants of Commodore, which is basically a licensing organization at this point for trademarks, but it sounds like they bought it. So good for them.
So anyways, the assign command, this goes back to your Amiga days, which are
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what assign did. I think you could assign a drive letter to a path, basically, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he said there's a way of mounting a folder as a virtual drive.
Right. Well, there's the subs command in MS-DOS, right? So you could do subs G : to some path, and now G : is that path. So that's very, very similar, I think. And that's why Microsoft didn't buy the Amiga, because they already had the subs command. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. Who needs all that Commodore estate? Yeah. Hardly Cure. I'm curious how a mount point locks in My Computer, Windows Explorer. Does the C drive show the combined capacity of both, or does it show C and its capacity, then beside it, like /games and the capacity of that folder?
I've never looked, but I've got to assume that having a junction point off to another drive or a mount point or a link does not in any way change the capacity of the volume. But if you had naive software, what might happen is, let's say you had a very naive disk space explorer program that went to calculate all the space on your disk. Well, it might follow all these paths off to other drives and say, holy cow, you've got 40 gigabytes on your 10 gigabyte drive. It's full. That's one scenario I'm kind of suspecting might happen, but it won't change the capacity or fool it in any way.
Okay. Fool me once, shame on. Hans Isbrucker. Does Windows still count a file multiple times in its size calculation if it has multiple hard links, or is this fixed these days?
No, if they're hard links, it would and should and will. Which is weird, I get, because you've got 3 files that are actually the same data and they all report the same size. So you might think, well, hey, now how does Unix get around this? Because when you do disk free, it must be able to figure it out. I don't have a good answer for that part of the question, but yeah, I'm just going to say I don't know on that one. I'm curious myself.
Oh, okay. Rudy's Retro Intel. Just a comment. Why not use Robocopy on a scheduler to back up personal files to your NAS? It says exactly you can use the flags to only copy different. Okay, yeah.
Do I use I don't use Robocopy anymore. It's not rclone. I think it is rclone. It's not rsync. Maybe it's rclone. It's the Unix version of Robocopy, basically.
Okay,
do multi-threaded copy, copy 30 files at a time. And so that's how I back up one NAS to another NAS every night.
And that's only the changes, I guess, right?
Yeah, it still has to go through and compare the file times on every file. So it's doing a lot of checking, but it's not doing a lot of copying. Okay.
And that's scheduled?
It used to be. I'm not sure if it still runs automatically. I had a cron job on. It runs on a Unix container.
Okay. And you've updated your StoreNator recently too, haven't you? No, that's a while ago.
Yeah, I got a new motherboard, CPU, and RAM, courtesy of 45 drive. So I featured it in a couple episodes, and it's a nice machine now. It's not the fastest, but it has 128 cores. So it's very good for multiprocessing. Or no, 64 cores, I'm sorry, 128 threads. But
there you go. Yeah, 2 threads per core. EHK Vlogs. Linux supports NTFS, but Windows does not support Linux file systems like ext4 and others. Do you know why?
Nobody's written it. Why nobody's bothered to port ext4? I mean, there's no need for it. NTFS is a good file system. ext4 is a good file system. You use whichever one is appropriate for your system. I don't think there's a win in using NTFS under Linux, except for being able to read volumes and disks that are formatted in NTFS and vice versa. So,
okay. Jeffrey Bassett, I think we're getting into some Tempest and AI stuff here. He says, so with regard to your tweaks, he says, is there some method you can measure the rate that the tool gets better or worse? Like he says, an AI model that watches the rewards values such that the tool really does self-improve based on its own learning.
Yeah, I've talked to that too. I talked about that with a guy from Google who was on their AI stuff, and he was suggesting using an AI to basically tune which parameters you bother to extract and send along to the game. And so have the AI optimize that one level removed from the AI that's optimizing the game. And that sounded cool, but it sounded really complicated too. So I didn't pursue that. And I didn't think it would get me past the yellow levels. I don't think it was going to be the
breakthrough. It's almost like that. Is this a simulation video? There's Inception stuff going on there. So another piece of this, and this is still something that I sort of struggle with, or I've probably asked you the question offline 5 times and still don't remember it, or maybe I'm not paying attention. Does the system actually remember all that it has learned from all the hours it's already analyzed? Or when you restart, does it start fresh, brand new again?
Which system are we talking about?
I think your AI model that's running your Tempest. So you've got this model running, going, you tweak a couple things, you restart that. Is it like basically starting from square one all over again, or does it have a recollection?
Yeah, so if I change the number of parameters, that changes the database where everything is stored and the model and everything else. So that wipes it clean and I have to start over. If I just change the reward function, it's a judgment call up to me whether I restart training or not. And I usually do if it's a substantive change to the reward. So, and I think we've talked about it before. Could you just train with different rules going forward? And yeah, but it depends on how valid or invalid your old training was now under the new rules and stuff like that.
And you've been working on your simulated VAC stuff, getting prepared for that to show up. So you probably haven't done a lot of tweaking on the Tempest AI model.
I haven't, no.
Okay.
I'll come back to it, but I needed a break from that. So got a little obsessed and worked a little too much on it. It's
a lot of level 32, 33, 34, just watching it play those yellow ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
L. Brent Evans says, I really wish there was a way to have USB drives enumerate into mount points automatically. I actually do run into the drive letter limits regularly because of certain workflows he has. Is there a way?
Really? No, I thought I know of.
So yeah, he searched the world over. He thought he found true love, then met another, and it was gone. Oh wait, wrong show. Sorry.
So you can make all the mount points you want.
Okay.
Like you could have A through Z, AA through ZZ. Right. You could have all kinds of them pointing off to the appropriate device, and not use drive letters at all. That'd be the way to do it, I think, if you've got a lot. But you're going to need something that automatically, as you insert these 50 devices or whatever he's doing, either pre-creates or automatically creates those mount points for you.
And then it's funny, they all rank the same rating in our system, but they came up one following the Edifice says, how do you audit mounted volumes? How do you set a report on quota for mounted volumes? Windows doesn't seem to report on any of these without a drive letter.
I don't think a drive letter is required for reporting, or the quota is going to be tracked on the actual storage device where the file is ultimately stored, regardless of where it fits into your mounted hierarchy. So I don't think it changes that at all. So I don't think it's an issue.
Okay.
At least I'm not aware of it.
Kenny JP 23. Again, we were talking about the AI stuff, and I think someone suggested about chess or something. He said, well, you don't know anything about chess. So Kenny suggests, hey, Dave, instead of chess AI, how about a short series on coding a Connect 4 AI?
I was just going to say Connect 4. That might be fun.
That would help us relative noobs get started on it. So I don't know if that's of any interest to you, or maybe a way of...
Yeah, the only thing is I think Code Bullet did an AI video on Connect 4. He probably doesn't show anything about how he built the AI, just what it does. Yeah. So I'll watch his, and then if he doesn't actually show how he did it, that's probably a good topic, and I'll look at that. Yeah,
cool. And then... Rob, what PDP emulator are you using?
OpenSimH.
OpenSimH, yeah.
So there was SimH, which was Bob Supnik. I don't know how to say his name. And then I don't know why, but it branched or forked or got started over again as a new project called OpenSimH, and they don't share code. And they're not quite compatible, but they both work. So I use OpenSimH because I know the guy that's on a steering committee for it. So.
Ooh. Yeah.
I'm pretty fancy, right?
Well, just like Bill Gates told you to never name drop. So yeah, you're
exactly. That's why I didn't say his name.
That. That's right. You're honoring that.
Sorry.
The Sinister Mind says, I've messed with mount points quite a lot, especially linking the installs of certain browsers to my D drive. So that begs my default question. How can you see percentage of utilization of such a drive? How can we know just how full a drive is that's mounted into a folder?
You're going to need a tool that works without drive letters, I guess, or you have a drive letter mounted to it. How do you do it on Windows? DU? I don't even remember how you check it out. Like with a shell, I know how to check it, but what's the command line way to check a UNC path space? I don't even know at this point. If you know, let me know in the comments. Like if you have an arbitrary volume mounted somewhere in your hierarchy and you go to that volume, how do you find out how much space is available on that actual disk?
Right.
Winner will receive.
Yep. And he did say, great subject, Dave. You never disappoint. So, yeah, kudos for that one.
Well, thank you.
Boy, this stuff gets a lot of... I'm always amazed at the questions and the range of technical skill among the folks watching. It's pretty fascinating. And the people that are like, man, they've got a belief or a thing that they trust and they use, and they're super passionate about it. And then they also have the opposite, things that they just absolutely hate, and they're super passionate about that. The passion in there is pretty strong. It's sometimes it's a bit jarring.
Borders
but
on the
it's,
religious.
It's fascinating. And they keep giving us questions. That's excellent. Just Mort Handel. And we're getting into the nested simulation one here, which is again a bit of an
I really
outlier.
liked that episode. Nobody watched it, like 25,000 views or something. But I mean, it had the technical, simulate all these things.
Yeah.
And then it had the philosophical. I liked it, but
You needed the
well.
tech savvy philosophers that the algorithm didn't align with those folks. So.
that'll be my console or my solace. That the top 25,000 computer philosophers have seen it.
Right. So we're going to get into it here. He's got a few questions. Just imagine if we are a simulation, could we then hack it? What would happen to us if we did figure out how to hack it? Would they destroy us, constrain our abilities, restart us, or just let us be? How does the world of the entity above us look? Are we essentially the anime of our creators, or did they simulate the world as is? And he's
Well,
got
if
a
you'd
couple
hack the
of-
simulation, I would just reprogram my watch. Every time I turned the knob, it would, like, if I turned it one way, it would release endorphins. And if I turned it the other way, it would release dopamine. And I would just sit in the sofa going, blah.
Okay. Well, and getting
So that's
back
the
to
risk.
some of these things about trying to find out how much room is left in your volume, what happens when they run out of system resources? Do they just pause us? Do they upgrade the hardware? And we don't
That's
notice?
the beauty of it, because time is dependent on the simulation's operation. They could pause it for 50 years and restart you, and you wouldn't have no idea, right?
That's not what Einstein meant when he said it's relative, right?
No, I always thought his example was sitting on a park bench with a pretty girl. It feels like a very short time. Well, getting your hair cut or doing something bad, it takes a long time, and that's relative. But
Oh, okay. I thought it had something to do with a guy on a train or something.
well, that's the
the
real
perception.
explanation. I'm talking about his when the press gets him. Professor Einstein, give us a cute quote.
Yeah. Lucid Moses, what does the PDP use? It's drive numbers, is it not?
It depends. So under Unix, everything gets mounted into your dev folder, depending on what exists in your device dtab file. RT11, you can type show dev, and your disks will show up depending on what controller they're connected to. So DU0 will be the MSCP drives, and RL0 will be your RL drives or whatever. So it really depends on the operating system and how it exposes them, and it varies and is different under each one.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I remember the physical labels in your drives. There was 0 and then 0, 1, 0, 2. Anyway, does Windows, Sean Sorbum, sorry, does Windows allow for loopback mounting like Unix variants? It says he's only seen image mounting done with third-party software in Windows.
I thought you could mount an image in Windows. I don't have a way to try it very quickly, but yeah, you might need third-party software. No, you can double-click on an ISO and load it in Windows. I hope in this day and age.
Is that
If
what
not,
loopback
that's
mounting
outrageous. I don't know what loopback mounting is, so that
okay.
was going to be my next question. But in terms of mounting an ISO image from a file on Windows, I'm pretty sure that works.
Oh, okay. Okay. Van Hetgor. I'm not sure there's a question here, but I'm going to read it anyway. Sometimes people make silly mistakes. Here in Holland, sometimes the names of YouTube movies are translated into another language. I did not ask for that. It happens. This Dave's Garage, it's the one about drive letters. This Dave's Garage movie is called Geen Stationsletters meer. Hogebruik geharde links, symbolisch links, nu punten e kuppelplu. He says, and this puzzles me. What are stations letters? A normal person would answer these are the letters used in a railway station to make an announcement for train delay. Inventing Dutch words that are normally not used does not make life simpler. It is the opposite. So
Yeah,
that's
I've heard. So I guess it's translating not just the videos now. You can go watch my video in Dutch or German or whatever you're into. It also is translating the text in the thumbnails, but not doing a great job of it. And if you can imagine, I mean, I fit my text in there so it's fairly tight, and then you convert it to German. How does it fit in the extra 14 syllables it takes to say computer?
Right.
So
I wonder, I'd probably get some feedback from Rutger on my
I thought your
reading of
Dutch,
the-
fake Dutch was pretty good.
we're going to find out in what time's Rutger wake up? Well, by the time this gets out, yeah, I've got a couple of days before he sees this, so I'm good for a while. Botsmanium. About drivelers. Now what do? I found this episode both informative and entertaining. I pressed like once the video loaded. I subscribed maybe 30 seconds after YouTube linked me to this channel. I'm out of options. Thank you.
Well, you could always send money.
Send it to me. Dave doesn't need any more.
Send $1 to Happy Dude.
Happy dude. Oh boy. Carl's Corner. And this is again, so that's funny that they're, in it for the subs and likes and stuff. So drive letters, and at the end here, you did your little tribute to the Friendly Giant. So it says, "Where's my chair? Make a shirt with the chair."
Make a shirt with a chair. Oh, like a merch?
I guess, yeah. Which you do have some merch stuff now.
I do. Dave's merch, I forget what the name is. Looking at the video description. But got hats and mugs and shirts. And ooh, he's got the binary hat. Let's see it. Bring it forth. All right. Now, the hat actually has binary on it. And if
Do you know what
look
that
it out,
says?
Actually, I do.
Yeah. What's it say?
Dave's Garage. Dave's Garage.
Oh, okay. I put it into Grok or ChatGPT, and it told me it says binary again.
Really?
That's what it told me.
I don't know.
Okay.
That would be hilarious because my kids did it, right? And so maybe they were iterating with Grok and they're like, solve this one. It goes, what? Binary again?
I think it says binary again. That's what it told me. But so, anyways,
I'll have to check that.
I secret shopped you because hey, you're putting merch out. I was so curious. So I have a shirt. I was going to wear that. I have a Dave's Garage shirt too, which is excellent. The hat is fantastic. I really like it, especially the back, the way it adjusts. It's not one of them cheap plasticky ones, so the hat's
it's a good
lovely.
one.
Shirt is excellent, nice product. But my kids and my wife got me this for Father's Day, so we haven't done an episode
I love
since.
that one, yeah.
I felt I needed to wear this one today. So, and I do have two of the foam mouse pad things coming, one for my home office and one for my work office. So, but that's that won't arrive till later this week or early next week, so I'll be sure to let you know. I've been wanting to get one for a long time. Just haven't, what do I get? And then I saw them on your merch. That's easy. I'll just get two of those. So, but
There you go.
anyway, so I'm quite happy with the shirt, quite happy with the hat, and yeah, it's cool. Simon Zarafa on the nested simulation. Even if we are in a simulated universe, then what would that knowledge gain us? Unless we can break the hypervisor, then it's a non-question. There would be no way to know with confidence, and knowing would not affect our day-to-day lives.
I can't agree there. I think knowing that you were in a simulation would pretty much mess you up, right? And it's like, none of this is real, man. So, well, I don't want to say anything too extreme, but if there were no repercussions, maybe it's the purge day. I have no idea.
Well, but if we are in a simulation and this isn't real, there still are repercussions. We face repercussions all the time, don't we? Well, most of us do.
Yeah, but not ethical ones, right? So you could do ethically unsound things and say, but it's all fake, so it doesn't matter. And it impacts nobody.
You would have an excuse or rationale for defending your bad behavior. Yeah. A lot of people don't even need that, though. They just do that anyway. So, yeah.
It's an enabler for other people.
Yeah. But it's because you and I grew up in Regina that we're so well grounded.
Catholic school,
Piff 5023. Has Microsoft ever thought about spinning off Windows into a new OS to try to reset compatibility? I guess that's that backward compatibility thing. But why would you fork it, I guess, is the...
Yeah, they have tried. I mean, I've heard that there have been initiatives internally to create new operating systems and so on. But if they don't work with Windows, then you might as well not start. So, I mean, you can be compatible with Unix at this point or Linux, but yeah, I don't think starting fresh would be to anybody's advantage.
Yeah, so you either then supporting two operating systems one that's backwards compatible and one that isn't. But they're already sort of losing that with Windows 10 and moving on to the TPM stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe that belongs in the philosophical video more.
If you were in a nested simulation in Windows 11.
Well, if it was a nested simulation, then we certainly could have one simulation running under a different operating system. That'd be fine. Frederick Appanon. So is a Windows shortcut a symlink?
No, it's not. It's just a file with some goo in it that says where the...
Oh, that's all the symlink or the shortcut is. Right. Yeah. Yeah,
it's actually an ID list, and it's a binary pax structure that contains things like the path. But it is not a file system feature at all, which has the benefit of working on any file system because it's not dependent on the file system. But
okay. Unverge Benid. I might be reading that wrong. So you're telling me the order of the arguments for the make link command is the exact opposite of what it is for POSIX?
I don't know.
It figures, but oh well. First time I heard hard links were even a thing on Windows was when Vortex Mod Manager suggested them as a method of installing mods, and my first reaction was, good luck. It's an NTFS drive.
Well, the first thing I do when I go to make a link on any system is look up the syntax because I can never remember which is, am I linking from or to or from or source or dest or source. And so I have to look it up, and I always look it up. Because I always look it up, I haven't remembered it yet, so I can't tell you if they're different between POSIX and Windows, but...
Okay, and RC Sontag here is going to go back to the, hi, I'm Dave, retired engineer with Microsoft, going back to the Windows. He says, so you're the one making Windows more complicated and harder to use.
Me? I haven't been there in a long time. What are you talking about?
I love this. Retired from Microsoft for more than 20 years, and it's still your fault.
My fault. That's right.
And then You Don't Know Me says, folder redirection. Is that junction points?
I don't know. I don't talk to strangers. What? Okay, what junction points?
Folder redirection. Is that junction points?
Strangers scare me. Next question.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know the answer to that one.
Those bend my brain when I have to support troubleshooter moved out on a workstation replacement. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with folder redirection. That must be a newer feature then.
And then RJ Smalls, another interesting topic and good explanation of the differences in use cases. Is the subst command related to links or points, or is it a different beast altogether?
No, a different beast entirely. Okay. So I think it just sticks an entry in the drive letter table for MS-DOS so that when you use that drive letter, it now has a place to go. And you're like, well, then how many drive letters do they set aside room for? And I think the answer was like 26 or maybe more originally, but the table is a fixed size. So you think, well, how can I save memory? Well, you set last drive equals E or D. And then it says, well, you only need 5 entries in your table because you only have 5 drives. And it saves some number of bytes in MS-DOS memory, and you've got that many more bytes to use. And that's how important bytes used to be.
Wow. Yeah. Every byte was sacred. Isn't that a Monty Python song? Yeah.
Yes. It's like...
the meaning of life.
On my PDP, it is. Yeah. Well, no, it's every sperm is sacred. Right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And what the hell was I talking? Oh, my PDP.
Your PDP.
Don't worry about it. Move
Something
on.
about bytes. The sacredness of bytes, man. Your PDP, bytes are sacred.
Oh, yeah, on my PDP. Yeah, so the devices, like you have to say how many MSCP controllers would you like to have and how many drives you're going to have. You got to compile the kernel with that information. So if you have 3 drives, you add a new drive. Well, time to recompile the kernel.
Right.
So, alrighty.
So the password issue, I think, might suggest my mom's solution to that. A pad of sticky notes right beside the computer. And then you just write your passwords in there, and maybe you pull the sticky note off and just put it off to the side. Try not to put it on the monitor, like off to the side, and then it's sort of maybe in a drawer and then it's hidden.
That's like when I write my PIN code on my ATM card, I always write it backwards and it's invincible.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's backwards and upside down.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah. Well,
especially if you got 8s in there, eh?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, I slipped in my Canadian accent. Do you hear that one?
That's my fault, probably. Right?
Yeah, I think it is.
Well, your brother
no
was
doubt
in
about
town
it,
for
eh?
the last week, so you've probably really slid hard into that for a while.
And I was
too,
in
so-
Wisconsin and Minnesota, so it's even worse.
Oh, that's, yeah, geez, holy cow. Checking out the Prowler, eh? NP sit. So passkeys, so passkeys require TPM to function? Is
No,
that
they
right?
require some way of storing something secure.
Okay.
Now, it could just be a pin that you secure it with.
Okay.
I use mine with like facial recognition, so it's tied to my biometrics.
Okay. Craig's 5212. Is there any solution to the Windows 24H2 ignoring auto unattend.xml files? You familiar with that?
I am not. I'm sorry.
Okay. Then that's, we'll move to the next question. Jason D. Hey, Dave, love these channels and the old computers and stories. My question is, do you know of a good video or book that explains the fundamentals and terminology of programming that would apply to any language, or better yet, make a video yourself explaining it?
I could.
Just one
You
short
could start
video.
You know what? If I had, I don't know. I don't know if I want to recommend this or not, but there's a series by Donald Knuth, The Art of Programming. And it starts with like real basics, loops and sorting arrays and stuff like that. And it walks you through the state of the art of computing in the late 60s or early 70s, which will get you pretty far because it's the basics, right? And so it's a cool series. I don't own a copy. Oh, through the basics? What did I say? Yeah, no, it's not for basic. You can learn it. You can learn C with it. Pretty much any language that can do data structures. So,
I mean, I'm not a programmer, but I was in the same computer science class as you in grade 9.
Oh, that's
and
right.
some of those things that we just learned in grade 9 and 10, and I mean, did 11 and 12, but the basic fundamental stuff still applies. You've got all sorts of now languages and commands and different syntaxes for doing it, but it also applies to other things. Like I use it, most of my stuff's now in Excel, but I'm still applying a lot of those fundamental things like loops and if statements and checking and validating. And so it is pretty universal stuff. Yeah, fascinating. The other thing that popped up quite a bit in that episode about the passkeys was the BBC Micro.
oh yeah, because I knew so little about it. I gotta watch Nostalgia Nerd's video on it. Bet you they make one.
And again, so Michael Dulloway is one of the guys. Another great episode, Dave. Thank you. Can you do an episode on the BBC Micro? I know you said you only have some vague knowledge of it, but I'm sure you can investigate, interview some knowledgeable sources. A couple folks had stuff like that, and a friend of mine said, yeah, that was his first computer, was the BBC, whatever. And he was
really?
I heard about my first computer. Everybody gets excited, especially because it's a British product. So to hear, yeah, which is why it's completely foreign to you. But
yeah,
you're not going to go learn how to do you're not going to pick up a BBC
I don't think I
Micro
can do
or
it
nothing,
justice because I don't have that nostalgic feel for that particular computer because I never worked with it. So if I'm doing old stuff, I'm usually doing it from a basis of nostalgia in some way. And since I'm not nostalgic about that particular machine, I don't think I could bring the same passion to it.
Okay. Dave Karentnik. The Tempest training is interesting. He studied AI a little bit in the late 80s. Oh, wow. That's back when it was invented. To move forward, I assume you've looked into some of the possibilities used to tackle local or AI local maxima. The current roadblock you described seems to fit that description. Random restarts, backtracking, simulated annealing. Maybe you've tried that already?
Yeah, I've tried those things. Yes.
Okay, damn.
And then there's other layers you can insert for the kind of dead end. And there's a whole bunch of things you can try. Because I asked AI, what should I do at this point? And it would give me suggestions and AI or ideas, and I would follow them for a couple of days. And didn't have any luck, but I did try some of those things. Yes.
Okay. A couple more. We'll run our last couple, 3 questions here. To OQP. Did you get acquainted with Donald Hoffman?
My goodness, it sounds very familiar.
No. That's from the nested simulation one. So.
I'm going to guess no. The name sounds weirdly familiar because I must know it from somewhere, but I'm going to say no.
Okay, so let's throw another name at you then from Devin Vancraft. Dave, I'm also totally autistic is configured in the DSM guidebook. Are you willing to explain who Gary is?
Gary? The guy that invented the laser printer? I don't know.
Oh, is that the Gary? Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't ring a bell for me either. Second last one. And this one came up a bit too, a couple times on the simulation. Just a random guy on the internet. That's what his username is.
Okay.
Could you please demonstrate your experiment on how you got to 63 bits? Would that mean if we could create a simulation on our own, that it would be a 128-bit simulation? Simply, we were trying to figure out the math on that, I think.
I mean, there was a lot of hand waving in my math, but I took the Planck constant as the smallest value that you had to be able to distinguish. And then I took, I think it was 15 light years as the distance in any direction. So like 30 light years in both directions. And that could be an old number. It could be much bigger than that now. But I think those were the numbers I worked with.
Okay. And I think maybe for those folks that are fans of the BBC computer.
Did I say 30 billion light years? Because that's what I meant. Sorry.
Can't remember. Yeah, you did say that there was a lot of hand waving in your math. I was thinking it was sort of, mathiness, but I think the important thing to distinguish is that what you did to determine that was you used math, not maths. So it was just some of them, not all of them. So yeah.
If I were British and had a BBC micro, I would use maths.
That's right. You'd use, so there'd be more of them. So it would be a more, precise.
More authoritative answer.
More authoritative. Plus you'd be saying it in a different accent, which would imply even more knowledge and esteem to the answer that you provided. So,
well, speaking of authoritative, I was at the doctor today for my annual physical.
Uh-oh.
And I got arthritis in the base of my left thumb, and it's got like a big bone spur. Well, not a big bone spur, but starting to form there. I show it to my doctor, and he's like, I thought you were right-handed. And I said, I am. And he goes, well, people usually get it on their dominant hand. I said, well, it's my spacebar thumb, and I space with great authority.
You smashed that thing.
I do. I'm hard on keyboards. I've worn keys off my Mac. I have never wrecked a regular keyboard, but...
Last question, Dave, from Charlie Martirelli. Good one, Dave. He's on the nested simulation. Good one, Dave. This is a great distraction on a Thursday afternoon. I have a question about your server setup.
All right.
First of all, I'm not a hardware expert, but my internal IT mind tell me it's not a good idea to have a large air compressor and server in the same small closed space. Are you doing anything to suppress the vibrations?
The server is mounted on rubber pads but it is also bolted to the ground, so it's going to transmit some. I have not been able to demonstrate any increase in air rate when the server or the compressor is running. So I was concerned that the acoustics, the vibrations would somehow upset the storinator. But because the compressor is isolated and the storinator hangs from a mount that's on the wall, it's pretty much the acoustic load, and it doesn't seem to be enough. Now, I've seen the screaming at servers video where the guy screams at the server and it gets a whole bunch of errors, but I have not experienced anything like that. So I did look.
The other one I saw too was someone talking about some oil mist or something that can come from the compressor.
Shouldn't in the room.
Okay.
It's possible, though. There is a muffler on the compressor, and maybe some oil comes out of there. But I've never noticed any film or anything on it. Good point, but I haven't noticed any results from that yet.
And that setup you have with your network storage in the compressor room, you've been running with that system for 15 years?
No, I've only had the computer in the compressor room for about 3 years.
Oh,
it's only the thing is, I use the compressor a lot less now because they have, when you've got brushless electric tools, they're almost as good as most air tools now. So I use the compressor for tires and the sandblaster and things that require high flow air. And so it'll run hard for a little bit, but not very often anymore because almost everything I do now is electric. So
yeah, so the timing of that sort of worked out well too, that it's in the room, but yeah, they're not seldom. Yeah. Okay. All of my concerns have been addressed.
I'm glad.
We've got through I just whacked my mic. It was doing so good. Got through, probably a solid 15 minutes of questions and stuff. So that's all we got from those last 3 episodes. So back to you to wrap things up.
All right. Well, please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed the episode at all, because we're trying to build this channel up and it's only got, 40 or 50,000 subscribers. So it's just a starting point.
40?
And in the meantime, 40, okay. So in the meantime, and in between time, hope to see you next time, right here in Shop Talk. See you later. This little chair will be waiting for one of you, and a rocking chair for another who likes to rock, and a big armchair for two to curl up in. All next time on Dave's Garage.